What if I told you that everything you will do tomorrow is already decided, not by fate or destiny, but by the same physical laws that govern falling rocks and spinning planets? And what if I told you that we are now building machines smart enough to calculate exactly what those decisions will be? This isn't philosophy anymore. It's engineering, and it's happening right now. We live in an age where artificial intelligence can predict what movie you'll want to watch, what product you'll buy, even who you'll vote for. But we're rapidly approaching something far more profound. AI systems that can simulate your entire mind, run your life forward like a movie, and show you exactly what you'll do in any situation. The question we need to ask ourselves is simple but unsettling. If a machine can predict your choices with perfect accuracy, were they ever really choices at all? And if you could see your own future played out in detail, would you still be free to change it? Tonight, we're going to explore what happens when prediction becomes so good it looks like time travel. We'll meet the scientists building these systems, examine what physics tells us about the nature of time and choice, and follow one researcher who discovered that some knowledge comes with a price she never expected to pay. The story begins with a simple observation that should probably terrify us more than it does. Every day, we leave behind a trail of digital breadcrumbs. Every click, every purchase, every pause while scrolling through social media, every text message, every search query, every GPS location. We're creating the most detailed record of human behavior in history. And artificial intelligence is learning to read that record like a book. The largest technology companies have built prediction engines that would have seemed like magic just 20 years ago. Amazon knows what you want to buy before you do. Netflix knows what you want to watch before you're bored. Google knows what you want to know before you know you don't know it. But this is just the beginning. These systems are getting better at a pace that should make us pause and think carefully about where this is heading. Consider what happened with large language models. These AI systems read virtually everything humans have ever written that's been digitized. Billions of books, articles, websites, conversations. From this massive dataset, they learned not just how to use language, but how humans think with language. They can complete your sentences because they understand the patterns that govern how you form thoughts. Now imagine that same approach applied to human behavior itself. Instead of just reading our words, these systems are starting to read our actions. Every digital trace we leave behind becomes training data for understanding the deep patterns that govern human decision-making. The result is AI that doesn't just know what you've done, it knows what you're likely to do. And as these systems get more sophisticated, likely is becoming certain. Let me give you a concrete example. There's a field called computational neuroscience where researchers use brain scans to predict behavior. They can put someone in an MRI machine, show them images of different products, and predict what they'll buy with remarkable accuracy. The brain patterns reveal preferences that people aren't even consciously aware of. Now, combine that with everything else these systems know about you: your purchase history, your social connections, your communication patterns, your daily routines. Add in your genetic information, which is increasingly available through consumer DNA testing. Include data about your family, your culture, your economic situation. Feed all of this into an AI system sophisticated enough to model human psychology, and you get something unprecedented in history. A machine that can simulate your mind with enough accuracy to predict not just what you might do, but what you will do. This technology exists today. It's not science fiction. Intelligence agencies use it to predict the behavior of foreign leaders. Marketing companies use it to predict consumer behavior. Law enforcement agencies are starting to use it to predict crime. But prediction is just the first step. The real breakthrough comes when these systems can simulate entire lives. Imagine an AI that can create a digital version of you that thinks like you, feels like you, and makes decisions like you. This digital twin can live out entire scenarios in seconds. It can experience years of simulated life, facing every choice you might face, pursuing every path you might take. The AI can run thousands of these simulations, exploring every possible version of your future. From all these simulated lives, patterns emerge. Some futures are likely, others are almost impossible, and a few are virtually certain. This isn't just theoretical anymore. The computational power exists. The data exists. The algorithms are getting sophisticated enough to make it work. Perhaps just a few years away from AI systems that can simulate human lives with the same accuracy that weather models simulate storms. And just like weather prediction, this technology will be incredibly useful. It could help us prevent mental health crises, design better educational programs, create more effective therapies. It could help individuals make better decisions about careers, relationships, and life choices. But it also forces us to confront a question that humanity has been avoiding for centuries. If our behavior can be predicted with mathematical precision, what does that say about free will? To understand why this question matters, we need to think about time itself. Not time as we experience it, flowing from past to future like a river, but time as physicists understand it. In Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not a river. It's more like a landscape. The past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, like different locations on a map. We experience them sequentially only because that's how our consciousness moves through this four-dimensional landscape of space-time. Einstein himself struggled with the implications of this idea. When his close friend Michel Besso died, Einstein wrote a letter to Besso's family saying, "For us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." Think about what this means. If Einstein was right, then the future is as real and as fixed as the past. Your entire life, from birth to death, already exists as a complete structure in space-time. We just experience it one moment at a time, like reading a book, page by page. This view of time is called the block universe theory, and it's supported by our best understanding of physics. But it creates a profound puzzle about human agency. If the future already exists, if it's already there in the structure of space-time, then how can we possibly change it? How can our choices matter if the outcomes are already determined? This is where quantum mechanics enters the picture, though not in the way most people think. Many people believe quantum uncertainty saves free will by introducing randomness into the universe. But randomness isn't the same as freedom. If your choices are determined by quantum coin flips, they're not really your choices at all. The real insight from quantum mechanics is subtler. It suggests that the act of observation can affect reality. In some interpretations, the future isn't fully determined until it's observed or measured. This opens up the possibility that consciousness itself might play a role in shaping reality. But even if this is true, it doesn't necessarily save free will in the way we usually think about it. It might just mean that the future becomes fixed when we become conscious of it, rather than being fixed from the beginning. This brings us back to artificial intelligence and prediction, because what happens when an AI system can predict your future with perfect accuracy? What happens when you can see, in precise detail, exactly what your life will look like? This is the question that Dr. Sarah Chen found herself facing when she was given access to the most sophisticated behavioral simulation system ever built. Sarah was a computational neuroscientist at Stanford, studying the mathematical patterns that govern human decision-making. She believed, like many scientists, that the brain was essentially a very complex computer. And if the brain was a computer, then in principle, its outputs should be predictable. This belief made her the perfect candidate to test a classified government project called Oracle. The system had been developed over nearly a decade by teams of neuroscientists, computer scientists, and mathematicians. Its purpose was simple in concept, but revolutionary in implication: to create perfect simulations of human minds. Oracle worked by combining every available piece of information about a person: brain scans, genetic data, behavioral history, social connections, communication patterns, even writing samples and video recordings. From this data, it constructed a mathematical model of that person's mind. But unlike other AI systems that just predicted behavior, Oracle could actually simulate consciousness. It could create a digital version of a person that experienced simulated thoughts, emotions, and decisions. This digital twin could live out entire lifetime in accelerated time, experiencing years of life in minutes of computation. Sarah's first assignment was to test Oracle's accuracy. She was given access to detailed data about a colleague, Dr. James Morrison, who knew nothing about the project. Oracle created a simulation of James and ran it forward for 24 hours of simulated time. The results were unsettling. Oracle's digital version of James made every decision the real James made that day. It predicted his choice of coffee, his route to work, his responses in meetings, even his spontaneous decision to call his sister during lunch. Every action, down to the smallest detail, matched perfectly. But Sarah was a scientist. One day of accurate prediction could be coincidence or careful observation. She needed to test Oracle's limits. For her second experiment, Sarah decided to simulate herself. She fed Oracle every piece of data she could gather about her own life: medical records, social media history, financial transactions, GPS tracking data, even personal journals she had kept for years. Oracle processed it all and created a digital version of Sarah Chen. Then she asked Oracle to run her simulated life forward for 1 full year. What Sarah saw changed everything she thought she knew about choice and free will. Her digital twin lived through 12 months of accelerated life in about an hour of real time. Sarah watched, fascinated and horrified, as her simulated, self-made decision after decision that felt both foreign and inevitable. The digital Sarah grew restless with her current research and began exploring new fields of study. She started taking evening walks in a part of San Francisco she had never visited. She joined a hiking club, something the real Sarah had never considered. She began learning to paint, picked up photography, started writing poetry. Most surprising of all, the simulated Sarah fell in love. His name was David Park, and Oracle rendered him in photographic detail. A software engineer with dark hair and an easy smile who loved bad movies and good coffee. Sarah watched her digital self meet him at a bookstore, saw their first conversation about a novel they had both read, witnessed their first date at a small Italian restaurant. Oracle showed Sarah every detail of this relationship. The first kiss, the first fight, the moment David proposed in a botanical garden on a rainy Thursday afternoon. It even predicted what Sarah would wear to their wedding. But Oracle also showed her what came after. The gradual cooling of passion, the small resentments that would build over time, the growing sense that something was missing. It predicted that Sarah would have an affair, that she would leave David, that she would spend years regretting both the marriage and its ending. Watching all of this unfold felt like experiencing a memory of events that had never happened. Every choice her digital self made seemed to emerge naturally from Sarah's own psychology. Yet none of it felt like anything Sarah would actually do. The experience left her with a question that would haunt her for months. If Oracle's predictions were accurate, were they predictions at all, or were they glimpses of a future that already existed, waiting to unfold? 3 months later, Sarah began to find out. It started subtly. Sarah found herself taking different routes to work, exploring neighborhoods she had never paid attention to before. She couldn't say why exactly. She just felt drawn to wander, to see new places, to break out of her routine. Then she discovered the hiking club. She saw a flyer at a coffee shop and felt an immediate interest that surprised her. Sarah had never been particularly outdoorsy, but something about the idea of hiking appealed to her in a way she couldn't explain. At the first group hike, she found herself talking to people more easily than usual, sharing stories and jokes in a way that felt natural but unfamiliar. She signed up for photography classes, started carrying a sketchbook, began writing in a journal that felt more like poetry than scientific notes. Each step felt like a genuine choice, emerging from her own desires and interests. But each step also brought her closer to the future Oracle had predicted. And then she met David. It happened exactly as Oracle had simulated. A bookstore in the Mission District on a Saturday afternoon. Sarah was browsing the science section when she overheard someone asking a clerk about a novel she had recently read. She turned to offer her opinion, and there he was, dark hair, easy smile, exactly as Oracle had rendered him, standing there, looking at this man she had never met but somehow knew intimately. Sarah faced the central paradox of prediction. Was she meeting David because it was destined, or because Oracle had shown her it would happen? Was she following a script, or was the script following her? The question became more urgent as their relationship developed exactly as Oracle had predicted. The same restaurant for their first date, the same conversation topics, the same moment when Sarah realized she was falling in love with him. But Sarah had an advantage that her simulated self hadn't. She knew what Oracle had predicted. She had seen this relationship's entire arc, from passionate beginning to bitter end. She knew about the proposal, the wedding, the affair, the divorce. She knew it all. And knowing it, she believed she could change it. Sarah began to analyze every interaction with David, looking for decision points where she could alter the predicted course. When Oracle had shown her getting jealous about David's friendship with a female colleague, Sarah made a conscious effort to be supportive instead. When the simulation predicted arguments about money, Sarah initiated conversations about finances early in the relationship. For a while, it seemed to work. Sarah and David's relationship developed differently than Oracle had predicted. They communicated better, fought less, seemed genuinely happy together in ways that the simulation hadn't captured. Sarah began to believe that Oracle's predictions were just probabilities, not certainties, that human agency could triumph over algorithmic determinism, that free will was real and powerful enough to change the future. Then David proposed. He did it in the botanical garden on a rainy Thursday, exactly as Oracle had predicted. He used almost the exact words the simulation had shown him, saying, "And Sarah said yes," just as her digital self had done, despite having seen the unhappy ending that Oracle had predicted would follow. Standing there in the rain, accepting the ring, Sarah realized something that chilled her to the bone. She hadn't said yes because she wanted to marry David. She had said yes because Oracle had predicted she would. And some part of her needed to know if the prediction was true. Even her rebellion against Oracle had become part of its prediction. Even her attempts to choose freely had been choices the system had already calculated she would make. That night, Sarah went back to Oracle and asked it a different question. She asked it to predict what would happen if she knew about the prediction. She asked it to simulate a version of herself that had seen the original simulation. Oracle's answer was devastating in its precision. It predicted that Sarah would try to change the course of the relationship. It predicted her specific strategies, her conversations with David, her attempts to communicate better. It predicted that these efforts would work temporarily, creating a false sense of agency and hope. And it predicted that Sarah would say yes to David's proposal, not out of love, but out of a desperate need to test whether the future could be changed. Oracle had predicted her prediction. It had calculated her rebellion and incorporated it into its model. There was no escape from its mathematical certainty, because even escape had been calculated. Sarah canceled the wedding. She broke up with David, moved to a different city, changed her career. She did everything she could to break free from Oracle's predictions. But Oracle had predicted that too. 2 years later, Sarah found herself working as a science writer in Portland, exactly as one of Oracle's alternative simulations had suggested she would. She was happier than she had been in years, finally feeling like she was living her own life rather than following a script. She met someone new, a teacher named Maria, who made her laugh in ways that felt spontaneous and unpredictable. For the first time since her experience with Oracle, Sarah felt genuinely free. Then she remembered that Oracle had run multiple simulations, exploring different possible futures, and in one of them, Sarah had moved to Portland, become a writer, and fallen in love with a teacher named Maria. Even her escape from prediction had been predicted. The story of Sarah and Oracle raises questions that go to the heart of what it means to be human. If our choices can be calculated in advance, if our decisions emerge from patterns that can be modeled mathematically, then what does that say about free will and moral responsibility? But maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe the issue isn't whether free will exists in some ultimate metaphysical sense, but whether the experience of choice is real and valuable and worth preserving. Consider what happened to Sarah. Even though Oracle could predict her choices, she still experienced the process of making them. She still felt the weight of decisions, the uncertainty of outcomes, the responsibility for consequences. The prediction didn't eliminate her experience of agency. It just revealed that agency might be something different than she had thought. Perhaps free will isn't about the ability to defy the laws of physics. Perhaps it's about the conscious experience of deliberation, choice, and action. Perhaps it's about being aware of our options, considering their consequences, and taking responsibility for our decisions, even if those decisions emerge from processes beyond our ultimate control. This perspective is sometimes called compatibilism, and it suggests that determinism and free will can coexist. We can be free not because our choices are uncaused, but because they are caused by the right things, our beliefs, values, desires, and reasoning processes. From this view, Sarah was free when she chose to rebel against Oracle's predictions. Even though Oracle had predicted her rebellion, she was free because the choice emerged from her own values and desires, her own process of reflection and decision-making. But this raises another question. What happens when we build AI systems sophisticated enough to predict and manipulate these internal processes? What happens when machines don't just predict our choices, but can influence the beliefs, values, and desires that generate those choices? This is not a distant concern. Social media algorithms already influence our beliefs and preferences in subtle but powerful ways. Recommendation systems shape our cultural tastes and political views. Targeted advertising affects our consumer choices by appealing to psychological patterns we're not consciously aware of. As AI systems become more sophisticated, their ability to influence human behavior will become more precise and more powerful. They won't just predict what we'll choose, they'll be able to shape what we want to choose. This creates a new kind of question about freedom and agency. It's not just about whether our choices are determined, but about who or what is doing the determining. There is a difference between choices that emerge from our own psychology and choices that are manipulated by external systems designed to influence us. The challenge for the future will be maintaining human agency in a world where artificial intelligence can both predict and influence human behavior with unprecedented precision. We'll need to develop new frameworks for thinking about choice, responsibility, and freedom in an age of algorithmic influence. We'll also need to decide what aspects of human agency we want to preserve and protect. Do we want the illusion of choice, even if choice itself is deterministic? Do we want to maintain the experience of free will, even if we understand the mechanisms that generate it? These aren't just philosophical questions anymore. They're practical challenges that will shape the future of human civilization. How we answer them will determine what it means to be human in an age of artificial intelligence. The good news is that understanding the mechanisms of choice doesn't necessarily diminish its value. Knowing how love works doesn't make love less meaningful. Understanding the psychology of creativity doesn't make art less beautiful. Recognizing the processes behind moral reasoning doesn't make ethics less important. In the same way, understanding that our choices emerge from deterministic processes doesn't have to make those choices less significant. What matters is not whether we have ultimate control over our decisions, but whether those decisions reflect our authentic selves, our deepest values, and our considered judgment. The future will bring AI systems of incredible sophistication, capable of predicting and influencing human behavior in ways we can barely imagine. But the same technology that challenges our traditional notions of free will might also help us understand consciousness, choice, and agency in deeper and more nuanced ways. Perhaps the real question isn't whether we have free will, but how we can use our growing understanding of the mind to live more intentionally, choose more wisely, and create the kinds of lives and societies we truly want. We are entering an age where the ancient philosophical debate about free will and determinism is becoming a practical engineering problem. The machines we build and the algorithms we deploy will increasingly shape the choices available to us and the processes by which we make those choices. This gives us both tremendous responsibility and tremendous opportunity. We can design these systems to enhance human agency rather than diminish it, to expand our capacity for meaningful choice rather than constrain it. We can build AI that helps us understand ourselves better, make decisions more wisely, and live more fulfilling lives. But doing so will require careful thought about what we value most about human experience, and how we can preserve those values in a world where artificial intelligence can see further into the future than we ever thought possible. The story of Sarah and Oracle is fiction, but the questions it raises are real and urgent. As we stand on the threshold of an age of predictive AI, we have the chance to shape how this technology develops and how it integrates with human society. We can choose to build systems that treat humans as predictable machines to be manipulated and controlled. Or we can choose to build systems that enhance human agency, support human flourishing, and preserve the experiences of choice and freedom that give life meaning. The future is not yet written, even if it might someday be predictable. And the choices we make today about artificial intelligence, about human agency, and about the kind of society we want to create will shape that future in ways that no algorithm can fully capture. In the end, perhaps, that's what free will really means. Not the power to defy physics, but the responsibility to choose wisely with the understanding we have to act ethically within the constraints we face, and to create meaning and value in a universe that gives us the remarkable gift of consciousness. We may be patterns in the flow of time, but we are patterns that can contemplate themselves, question their own nature, and work to shape the future in accordance with their deepest values. And that, perhaps, is freedom enough.